Hey guys, welcome to the second section where we start talking about manipulating objects in 3D space. This first lecture, I'm going to go over how to rotate, move around, and zoom in the 3D viewport. So you can do this a couple of different ways, but first thing I'm going to do is show you how to do it with the mouse. So bear in mind too, I've turned this little icon on so you'll be able to see what I'm doing with the keyboard and the mouse. So let's talk about how to get around. First thing I'll do is tell you that if you middle mouse button drag in the 3D viewport, it will allow you to rotate around the center like this. So all I'm doing is holding down the middle mouse button and I'm dragging with my mouse. Now if I do the same thing and I hold the shift key, it will let me move the vantage point around like this. And then once I stop and I start rotating, I can still rotate around just like this. In order to zoom, it's pretty similar. You're still going to use the middle mouse button, but you're going to zoom by scrolling with your scroll wheel. So get it where you want it, zoom in on the cube like this, and then you can still use the same thing we just talked about to move around. So one more time, let's review. If you hold down the middle mouse button and drag, you can rotate around. Zooming in and out is using the scroll wheel. And then if you hold the middle mouse button and then drag while you're holding the shift key, you can move around like this. Okay, so that's pretty handy. That's how I move around quite a bit. But there's always more than one way to do things in Blender. So you can also go down to this view menu in the 3D viewport. And if you see these here, these are different views that are preset inside of Blender. So if I go to the top view here, it's going to put me looking down on the object in the 3D viewport. You can also go to the side, left or right. Then you can go to the camera, like that. And it'll kind of give you a preview of what it'll look like when you're ready to render, just like that. And even though I'm within the view here of the camera, as soon as I middle mouse button and I drag again, I'll jump out of that view, and now I'm back into the rotation of the 3D view. So pretty handy. You're going to be using that quite a lot as you get around. You just got to come in here, and once the program's open, just practice with your middle mouse button, dragging around, and set things up like that. Now you can use the view menu. It gets pretty slow if you try to come in here every time and use this menu. So if you look to the right here, you're going to see these keyboard shortcuts, and these correspond to the numbers that you're going to find on your numpad, which is the extended numerical section on the far right hand side of your keyboard. So you got to use those numbers instead of the numbers on top of your keyboard, because the numbers on top of your keyboard do something different that we'll talk about later. So make sure that if you had a numpad, you can use that. And if you don't, then I will go over how to set up the user preferences so you can get around with alternate keys if you don't have a numpad. And we'll go over that when we get into modifying the user preferences. Okay, so let's talk about what happens if you're starting to get in here and navigate. And let's say you've gone too far, and you're trying to move around, but you've zoomed in so far that you can't really move anymore. You're kind of stuck. Realize if you zoom in too far, you're not going to be able to really make any headway trying to move around. So if you do that, you can zoom back out, and then you'll be able to move a little further. But let's say you've moved like way over here, and it's kind of off place. If you hit Shift C, like I just did there, it will put you back on the center of your viewport. It'll just recenter your view. So if you ever get way off here on the side and you're just rotated at a weird angle and you don't know what's going on, hit Shift C and it'll put you right back where Blender starts you off at. So guys, that's about it for basic navigation in the 3D viewport. Again, you can use your mouse, you can use the keyboard, you can use this menu. And so we'll get more in-depth into that as we get into some of the other things we can do in Blender. But for now, that's going to wrap us for this section. And in the next lecture, I will go over different ways to select objects in the 3D viewport. So I'll see you there.